forest listens before it kills. Pine spires lift like cathedral ribs, and everything smells like iron and rain. Fog roams low, ankle-high, a pale animal with a slow breath. Between the boles of old trees, eyes hang, pairs, trios, entire constellations, watching, counting, waiting for the first mistake. A wind shivers the needles, something answers, a howl, too deep for one throat, rolls across the canopy followed by another, sharper, tactical, clipped like a command. The sound snaps branches, rattles heart valves. Birds explode from the blackness, but the sky is wrong. The moon is swollen and red, a ruptured fruit, bleeding its light into the world. Nothing under that color remembers mercy. A shape breaks from the fog line, a Dogman scout, digitigrade, shoulders bladed like an armored jacket, muzzle damp with old prayer ash. He stops by a stump spiked with sigils and huffs once, hand signs to the dark behind him. Two more shadows peel forward. Their eyes don't gleam. They calculate. This is doctrine. This is formation. This is a hunt. Across the clearing, the werewolves arrive like a storm-given bones. Lean, disciplined, scar-mapped. No wasted motion, no yips, no theater. They're alpha, ear-nicked, one eye a cataract pearl, steps into the red and exhales steam like a locomotive. The pack fans out, flank to flank, breathing in unison. You can hear the old laws in that rhythm. It sounds like a funeral for anyone who wasn't invited. Then the tree line rips. The Lycans don't enter. They erupt. It's less a transformation than a collapse and rebuild. Spines unfurl with a carpenter's patience and a butcher's joy. Ribs widen, clavicles flex, skin cedes territory to fur with a sound like soaked paper tearing. One Lycan lands on all fours, then rises taller than the Dogman's front line, jaws splayed too wide for sense, saliva stringing like silver wire. The forest recoils and then accepts. Nature, meet revision. For a breath, three kingdoms stare each other down under that meat-red light. The Dogmen move first. Silent charge, a perfect wedge. No roar, no howl, just work. Their point man slips under a Lycan's rake, cracks a collarbone with a reinforced forearm, and carves a shallow line along the beast's flank with a blade he wasn't holding a heartbeat ago. The wound doesn't bleed right, it steams, and the Lycan laughs. Not with the mouth, but with the whole engine of its body. The werewolves hold position. Discipline under terror is its own spell. Then, one nod from the white-eyed alpha, and they break like lightning. Not at the Dogmen, not at the Lycans. Through them, a V-sprint that turns the clearing into a blender of fur, teeth, and doctrine. One wolf takes a Dogman at the knee, buckles him, spins off, never stopping. Another climbs a Lycan's back like a mountain, jaws clamping the hinge of its jaw to turn a roar into a choking gargle. For 5 seconds, the forest is 50 separate wars. The moon pulses. It is not a trick of the eye. The light beats, and with every pulse, something inside each creature renegotiates its contract. Claws lengthen, then taper. Fur bristles, then lies like armor plates. Rage becomes precision, then flips back to rabid hunger. Whatever law kept these species in their lanes has been revoked. A Dogman captain, helmet etched with wards. Comms bead blinking, catches sight of a totem half buried in moss. A circle of antlers banded with silver thread, feathers blackened by old smoke. He feels the idea of it before he recognizes the shape. The circle, not the first circle. Not the original blasphemy, but a relay, the kind of thing a curse uses to take root and call home. He signals to set charges. He never finishes the sign. A werewolf hits him shoulder first, and the impact knocks the night out of him. They roll. He plants a boot, places a blade between the wolf's ribs, an apology more than a kill, and the wolf bites down on his forearm guard. Metal screams. Men once forged swords for glory. Tonight they forge time. The Lycan that laughed plucks a second wolf off its spine like a burr and flings him into a tree. Crack, slide, silence. It roars with a throat full of celebration and turns, too slow, because the white-eyed alpha is already there, low and left, going for the tendon. He tears, the Lycan buckles. Forest floor drinks hot, angry rain. The fog breathes in, and from that breath, a smaller figure steps out. Not small by human standards, nothing tonight remembers those, but smaller by the room-sized scale of this slaughter. Shoulders narrow, posture fluid, Fur is not uniform. It's patterned, like Lycan on old stone. Eyes are irregular, one lupine amber, the other a winter wolf silver with a crescent scar scything down from the brow. It smells wrong. Not wrong like rot, wrong like option, a hybrid. It lowers its head, not in submission but in calculation. 3 empires redraw their kill zones to include the outlier. It doesn't care. The hybrid raises one palm, pads black as burned moonlight, and scrapes its claws across the antler circle. Once, twice. The silver threads spark like fireflies crushed between glass. The red moon brightens, and every creature hears the same thing at once. No alphas, no borders. Prove you deserve the dark. The hybrid smiles with only one side of its mouth. The forest stops listening and starts choosing. This is whispering narratives where survival isn't promised, and the moon doesn't grant mercy. Bind your voice. Join the pack before the red light fades. Camera rides the hybrid's breath. Each exhale fogs the lens. Each inhale drags the sound of cracking wood and grinding teeth a step closer. The Dogmen's line reforms, 3 abreast, knives reversed, footwork surgical. Werewolves circle like disciplined meteors, their orbits overlapping, deflecting, accelerating. Lycans prowl with arrogant hunger, bodies still discovering new angles to be terrible. The hybrid touches the earth with 2 fingertips as if reading a pulse. The forest isn't haunted, the voiceover murmurs. It's hungry, the moon beats again. Somewhere far off, something answers back, a second howl, older than names, stitched from all the oaths ever broken under a red sky. Every head snaps toward the sound as if yanked by wire. The red moon doesn't rise. It swells, pushing its color down through the trees like ink into water. The air turns metallic. Each breath feels stolen. The hybrid crouches by the antler circle, claw still smoking from its touch. The 3 factions shift around it, geometry of hatred. Then the world explodes. A Dogman mortar launches a streak of blue flame through the canopy. The shell detonates above the clearing, raining silver fragments like an inverted snowfall. The werewolves recoil, snarling. The Lycans don't bother dodging, they absorb it. Wounds sizzling, healing, mocking the purity meant to kill them. The Dogmen advance under the silver rain, rifles slung, blades out. They fight like soldiers trained in nightmares. Clean, efficient, the choreography of extinction. One drives his knife under a werewolf's sternum and whispers a prayer that isn't for mercy but accuracy. The werewolf answers by tearing the prayer out through his throat. Blood hits bark and burns patterns. Older than alphabets, the hybrid watches. It's learning. The Dogman's order, the werewolf's honor, the Lycan's hunger. 3 philosophies colliding under one red doctrine. Survive. A Lycan with shoulders like siege engines rips a Dogman in half and roars victory into the tree line. The roar comes back doubled, because a werewolf uses the distraction to leap from above, jaws locking around the Lycan's skull. For one heartbeat, they share the same scream before both collapse, twitching, fusing into something the forest refuses to recognize. That's when the moon blinks, every creature freezes, 1 second of cosmic interference. The light stutters, the forest shifts. Dead bodies rearrange, wounds reseal, blood runs backward for an instant before gravity remembers itself. Whatever curse the hybrid woke isn't satisfied with slaughter. It wants perpetuity. Dogmen radios crackle, voices panicked. Command, this isn't physics, static. Then a voice not human, no command, only contenders. The hybrid steps forward into the rain of reversed blood, unbothered. Its fur ripples from brown to gray to black as if indecisive. It sniffs, selecting. 2 Dogmen pivot to intercept, synchronized like twin blades. The hybrid moves between them like smoke. One loses an arm before realizing a strike happened. The other fires point blank, silver slug punching through the hybrid's ribs. It doesn't fall. It inhales the pain like oxygen, exhales it as steam. The slug hits the dirt behind, molten, reformed into a perfect moon-shaped coin. Somewhere inside the hybrid, the forest takes notes. The werewolves regroup under the alpha's hoarse barks. They form the ancient crescent, half-circle defense, tails inward, throats outward. Their breaths sink, creating a bass pulse under the gunfire and growls. Each exhale is a word, pack, pack, pack. The alpha raises his muzzle and howls, not challenge but remembrance. The sound bends branches, slows hearts. Even the Lycans pause, confused by the ache of nostalgia they don't own. Then a Lycan lieutenant, blind in one eye and proud of it, breaks the pause. It lunges into the crescent, claws first, arrogance incarnate. The alpha meets it midair. There's no art in their collision, just gravity betrayed. They land in a crater of mud and sinew, locked jaw to jaw. The Lycan's bite crushes the alpha's shoulder. The alpha drives claws into the Lycan's throat. Both refuse to die until the moon itself decides. The hybrid tilts its head, studying them like a scientist watching cells divide, then pop. The alpha's spine breaks. The Lycan's head tears away. They fall together, and the forest howls approval. Power leaves one body and doesn't return to the other. It goes elsewhere, into the hybrid's chest. You can hear it filling, a low electrical hum that tastes like copper. Dogmen retreat to higher ground, dragging wounded. One carries a camera, night vision flickering green over the carnage. Through his lens, the forest seems to move independently, branches rearranging to frame each kill like a ritual offering. He murmurs, "It's documenting us." A werewolf pounces, crushing the camera. The feed dies with a sound like a heartbeat stopping mid-beat. The hybrid lifts its muzzle to the moon. The red light reflects perfectly in each eye now. Amber and silver balanced, predator and priest. 3 species entered the forest. None will leave unchanged. Lightning spiderwebs through the clouds, lighting the corpses like art. The hybrid steps into the center of the clearing, places a clawed hand on the ground. The blood and rain ripple outward in concentric circles. Each circle touches a body, and the bodies start to move. The forest exhales one word through the wind, impossible but clear. Continue. The storm doesn't arrive, it hatches. Lightning crawls through the marrow of the trees, each bolt tracing an invisible lattice in the sky. For a moment it looks like veins feeding the red moon, and the realization sinks in, this isn't weather, it's circulation. The hybrid moves like the eye of a hurricane, calm, centered, while the dogmen and werewolves tear each other apart in the periphery. Its steps are deliberate, ritualistic, every motion leaving a mark that glows faintly for a breath before fading back into soil. The ground seems grateful. A Lycan tries to flank it, massive, hulking, its claws dragging sparks from the rocks, but when it swipes, the hybrid catches its wrist mid-air. The motion isn't strength, it's inevitability. The Lycan snarls, tries to pull back, and realizes it can't. The hybrid tightens its grip until bone gives up. The arm breaks like firewood, the Lycan drops, and the hybrid whispers something only the blood understands. The Lycan convulses, then stills, its veins drawing tight into silver cords. When the hybrid lets go, the corpse stands, not breathing, not rotting, just waiting. The Dogmen commander spots it from his perch above the ridge and curses. He knows tactics, he knows formation, but nothing in the manuals covers necrotic recruitment. They're multiplying. He growls into his comms, but static eats the words before they reach anyone still human enough to hear. Below, the werewolves sense the shift and hesitate. They were built for hierarchy, for law. Without the alpha, they listen for a command that doesn't come, and that silence is where the hybrid lives. It steps into their circle, dripping authority. They don't kneel, but they lower their eyes. Instinct recognizes what intellect won't admit. One snarls to protest, old pride trying to breathe, and the hybrid moves faster than a thought. Claw meets jaw, one clean upward arc, and the protest ends in a wet vowel. The rest understand. The hierarchy isn't gone. It's just been redrawn. Evolution never ended. It just took sides. The forest answers with another rumble. Roots shift beneath the battlefield like intestines. The dogmen, still clinging to military order, fall back in triangles trying to corral the chaos. They set perimeter mines, but the ground refuses to obey geometry. Their devices slide under roots, vanish, detonate harmlessly beneath moss. Their leader, a scarred veteran with tungsten claws over human hands, snarls through grit teeth. "We adapt, or we die," he signals for thermite deployment. The The sky blooms white for a heartbeat, fire raining down in sheets. Lycans shriek, fur igniting, silhouettes thrashing in light. Werewolves vanish behind the glare. The hybrid stands in the inferno like it's being introduced to its element. When the fire recedes, everything that should have died is different. Charred fur flakes away to reveal obsidian armor across the hybrid's shoulders. Its claws drip light like oil. The moon brightens again, no longer red but an arterial scarlet white, as though it's learning a new phase. The hybrid turns toward the Dogmen ridge. Every breath it takes carries sound, the echo of all the howls that died tonight. They stack, layer upon layer, until the air trembles. Dogmen clutch their heads, blood leaking from ears. One tries to fire but ends up screaming into the barrel instead. The hybrid doesn't smile. It recognizes one of the Dogmen, youngest of the pack, refuses to kneel. He drops his rifle, steps forward, chest bared. "You can kill me," he rasps, "but you'll never own me." The hybrid studies him, something almost human behind the eyes. Then, claws extend, but instead of tearing, it touches 2 fingers to the Dogman's forehead. The soldier convulses, then stills. When his eyes open, they shine with twin halos, one red, one silver. He turns toward his own squad and growls, not Dogman, not werewolf, not Lycan, something in between. A new sound, a new species, the first to convert. The forest bends as if bowing. Every war invents its next generation mid-battle. Every species writes its replacement in blood. The hybrid spreads its arms, and the corpses of the fallen twitch. Those who died in fire, those who bled into roots, all begin to rise. Each carries a signature of its origin: the Dogmen's discipline, the Lycans' brute ferocity, the werewolves' cunning restraint. But all share one thing: the hybrid's eyes. The night vibrates with their breathing. No moonlight needed. They glow from within. The Dogman captain fires a final flare skyward, a desperate beacon. For a second, the forest glows like dawn. But dawn is a lie tonight. The red moon eclipses the flare mid-ascent, swallowing it whole. Silence follows, thick, wet, expectant. Then from deep in the trees, a second voice answers the hybrid's rising army, older, colder, feral beyond taxonomy, a howl that carries regret instead of rage. It stretches across the forest, across species, across history. The hybrid freezes mid-command, head snapping toward the sound. The pack pauses uneasy. Even the forest seems to pull its breath in. The Dogman captain, bleeding but alive, grins through broken teeth. "You don't even know who you woke, do you?" The hybrid turns its head, confused for the first time. Thunder rolls again, except it's not thunder. It's footsteps, massive, quadrupedal, the kind that rewrite the tree line as they move. The captain spits blood and laughs. The first alpha. The ground begins to breathe, not shake. Breathe. Each inhale pulls fog and screams into the soil. Each exhale spits them back out as steam. The trees bend inward, as though listening to something old and terrible rising beneath their roots. The hybrid turns slowly, scanning the dark that has suddenly grown deeper, as if the night itself has put on armor. All around, its new-forged army stiffens, instinct overriding invention. Even the Dogman captain, half reborn and half broken, feels the weight of a memory not his own crawling down his spine. Every species remembers the first one that hunted them. Even evolution keeps its nightmares. The forest floor splits. Out of the wound crawls the first alpha. Not a werewolf, not a Lycan, not any word that still fits in a throat. Its hide is the color of eclipse. Its mane drips starlight instead of fur. Its eyes are twin voids ringed by rotating moons, each phase ticking forward like clockwork teeth. It doesn't roar. It breathes, and everything kneels. The hybrid feels it like gravity multiplied, bones trying to remember submission. But whatever the hybrid is now, it's not built to kneel. It straightens, chest heaving, steam rising off obsidian shoulders. The alpha's gaze fixes on it, ancient and disappointed. A sound like glaciers cracking fills the air, a growl that's also a question. "Who made you?" The hybrid opens its mouth, and for the first time its voice is plural. "You did, when you left us to eat each other." Lightning veins through the clouds. The forest lights up. Thousands of wolves in various states of decay and mutation surrounding the clearing, all frozen mid-breath, waiting to see who owns the next second of time. The Alpha steps forward. Every footfall drags thunder in its wake. Bark peels from trees in concentric rings. Rivers nearby reverse their flow. With each step, the moon above sinks lower, drawn like prey toward its progenitor. The hybrid spreads its claws, defiant. Around it, its army trembles but holds formation. The Dogman's discipline stitches them together. The werewolves' courage binds their spines. Even the Lycan remnants snarl in reluctant solidarity. For the first time since the bloodline began, creation stood against creator. The Alpha lunges. The forest vanishes under the impact. Soil lifts in waves. Trees launch skyward like matchsticks. The shockwave knocks the Dogmen from their perch and sends the moon's reflection skittering across every puddle. The hybrid meets the charge head-on. Their collision births a crater, a perfect circle glowing red-white at the edges. Inside it, claws flash faster than thought. Every strike rewrites anatomy. One heartbeat their wolf, the next their starfire. The Alpha bites. The hybrid breaks free, leaving part of its shoulder inside those jaws. Blood sprays upward, caught by the moonlight, forming brief constellations before raining back as glowing cinders. Each ember that lands on the battlefield ignites a new skirmish, hybrid soldiers versus feral purists, the old order trying to erase its mistake. The Dogman captain staggers to his feet, blinded in one eye. "Aim for the heart," he shouts, though none of them know if the first Alpha even has one. Still, they obey. Grenades arc through the air. Silver, phosphorus faith. They detonate around the monster's flanks. The Alpha snarls, more offended than harmed, but it's enough. The hybrid sees an opening. It leaps. Mid-air, time hesitates. The hybrid's claws pierce the Alpha's chest, not to wound but to anchor. It digs deep, then drags itself upward until they're eye to eye. The moon above mirrors the struggle perfectly, half eclipsed, half screaming light. "You ended the chain," the hybrid growls. "I am the next link." The Alpha's answer is a roar that strips bark from planets. It shakes the hybrid loose, but not before something transfers between them. A pulse, a seed, a spark of acknowledgement. The hybrid crashes into the mud, body sparking with lunar fire. The Alpha towers, wounded but immortal, staring at its own blood for the first time in millennia. It looks almost curious. The ground beneath both begins to liquefy. The forest, too long enslaved, reclaims its right to feed. Roots coil upward, wrapping corpses living and dead alike, drawing them back into the earth. The Dogmen fire in futility. The Lycans claw at the air. The werewolves howl one last hymn to order. The Alpha sinks first, deliberate, regal, as though returning to throne rather than grave. The hybrid tries to stand, but finds its legs caught in the same hungry soil. It looks up at the moon, now pale and hollow. The first always returns to the ground. The next must choose whether to rise. The hybrid makes its choice. It opens its jaw and howls. The sound is wrong. It bends upward, tearing through dimensions like fabric. The moon flares white, then shatters, its pieces freezing mid-air, suspended like glass shards over the battlefield. Each fragment reflects a different version of the hybrid: wolf, man, god, monster. Then the shards fall as rain. When the light fades, the crater is empty. No Alpha, no hybrid. Just a forest, steaming, reborn, and very, very awake. A single claw mark remains carved into a fallen tree, still smoking. 3 slashes, then one smaller below. 4 lines. A sigil. Dogman survivors drag themselves upright, staring at it. "What's that mean?" one whispers. The captain wipes blood from his mouth, squinting. "It means there's a new Alpha, and it remembers us. At Whispering Narratives, we don't just tell stories. We resurrect them. Share this before the next full moon, so they'll know who survived." Dawn tries to arrive and fails. The horizon stains gray, then reconsiders under the weight of the shattered moon's glitter still sifting through the branches. Each shard that touched earth has melted into dew. Cold, bright, slightly luminous, as if the grass is sweating starlight. The clearing that held a war now holds a decision. Nothing crows. No bird announces a new day. Even insects keep their opinions to themselves. The Dogmen survivors count quietly. Fingers, breaths, names. 7 remain upright. 3 can still see straight. Their captain stands with his back to a fallen trunk carved by those 4 smoking lines. The sigil has cooled, but the wood around it refuses to rot. He checks his men the way old priests checked omens, throats, pulses, pupils, searching for what the night changed. He doesn't have to look hard. The youngest, the one the hybrid touched, stares at his hands as if they're confession and sentence. When he flexes, the air around his knuckles hisses, the way snow complains before it melts. His eyes twin, halos, red and silver, dim back to mortal brown, and then flare again, unbidden. "Sir," he says, voice hoarse with someone else's echo. "I can hear distances. Report what you hear." The kid's head tilts, listening to something the others can't. Roots, moving like a tide, corpses, rearranging, and he swallows. A heartbeat, far, like it forgot us but didn't forgive. The captain nods once. He heard the same silence. Across the ruined clearing, the werewolves rebuild themselves in ritual rather than flesh. They carry their dead to the ring of antlers. The hybrid scraped awake and lay them in a crescent. Muzzles toward the center, paws aligned. No alpha calls, yet they move as if commanded by a law deeper than voice. The eldest among them, grey-muzzled, ribs bound in torn cloth, kneels and drags a claw tip through the mud between each body, connecting them into a single shape. A broken moon that still refuses to go dark. He lifts his head and howls, not a claim, not a threat. Something like gratitude for discipline that held until it didn't. The sound travels a short distance and folds back in, as if the forest absorbed it to keep. From the tree line, Lycans watch with predator stillness. They heal fast, but this isn't wound. This is witness. Their lieutenant, the one who wore blindness like a crown, presses a palm to the earth. The ground answers his touch with cold. When he rises, his shadow is longer than his body should allow, antlered at the edges, jawed at the base. He doesn't turn away. He bares teeth at the lingering dew glow and speaks in a voice scraped raw by evolution. Not prey, not pets, not yours. The forest doesn't argue. It records. When the storm passes, law crawls out of the wreckage, still looking for an author. The author for now is missing. No hybrid, no first alpha. Only signs. A crater rim that refuses to fill. A ring of trees whose bark now reflects the viewer in fragment and phase. A ridge where dogmen minds have turned to seed pods, each humming with a frequency you feel in the teeth. The sigil on the fallen trunk, 3 slashes with a 4th beneath, pulls eyes like tide. The eldest werewolf studies it, nostrils flaring at residual ozone. He has seen pack marks, oath glyphs, brands of shame and honor. This isn't a mark, it's a menu, 3 lines, the old orders. 4th line, choice. Somewhere deep, a pine cone splits with a sound like a knuckle popping. A sapling, new and impatient, shoves through ash. Its leaves are darker than they should be. When wind catches them, they gleam with a slick copper sheen. The Dogman captain tests the ground with his heel. It's firmer now, but when he taps twice in rhythm, an old patrol habit, the forest taps back, once late, once early, never on time. It has learned syncopation. The beat no longer belongs to the living. "Status?" he asks. His second in command tightens a blood-soaked tourniquet and answers without looking up. Out of munitions, out of orders, out of doctrine. He gestures at the sigil, but not out of policy. The captain almost smiles. "We stole policy from nature. Tonight it stole it back." He turns to the youngest. "Your hearing, range test." He points downslope, where fog nests between stumps. "Tell me what waits there." The kid listens. His irises flash. Red, silver, brown, all choosing. Something that smells like the same storm in a different bottle. Not wolf, not dog, not man. Us if we don't decide soon. The captain follows his gaze. The fog parts for a moment like curtains, and shadows within it hold still too long, like actors who forgot their lines. He feels the night's thesis plain. If you don't author the aftermath will author you. The werewolves finish the crescent. The elder steps back, palms muddy, chest heaving. Without an alpha, someone must speak for the bones. He does not howl again. He names one by one. Each name drags a low pendant note from the tree line, as if the forest has a bell for the honored dead. When he reaches the white-eyed alpha's body, he falters, then straightens. Law does not die. He says not to the living, but to the job that's now homeless. It relocates. From the trees, the Lycan lieutenant snorts. Law is a fence. Fences rot. He steps forward into the clearing, hands open, no claws. We are here to hunt the thing that returns. When it returns. The word when lands like a nail. At the edge of the clearing, a shallow pool has formed in the crater's lip. Moonshard, rain, and blood mixing into a surface that mirrors the sky badly, like a drunk remembering his vows. The pool quivers, and letters rise. Not carved, not written, grown. 4 lines on night, no master cues. The message fades as soon as thought recognizes it, leaving only ripples that refuse to resolve. Curses don't end. They offer terms. The dogmen stand. The werewolves gather. The Lycans prowl in, closing the triangle. No truce, not yet. But a geometry has formed that isn't purely murderous. The captain clears his throat, human sound in a post-human mourning. We'll mark the perimeter, not to keep you out. He looks at the elder and the lieutenant. To keep it in if it comes back wrong. The elder's ear flicks, a nod in a language older than yes. The Lycan bares teeth, agreement wearing a threat's mask. For a breath, they are co-authors. Wind slides through the canopy, scattering the last of the moonglass. It hisses when it touches the sigil's trunk and melts into the grooves, brightening the lines for a final second, before sinking out of sight. The kid, eyes flickering, sways and catches himself. In that dizzy hinge between species, he looks toward us, the unseen witness, and speaks as if confessing to a camera that doesn't exist. If we leave it here, he whispers, it writes the next chapter without us. Silence takes his words and files them under prophecy. The forest, fat with memory, settles into a patience that will outlast any oath. Somewhere beneath the roots, 2 heartbeats, one ancient, one new, echo like storms behind mountains. Not close, not far, inevitable. Mark survival. They're watching. Fade on the sigil. 4 lines. Bark closing over a wound that isn't done speaking. 1. The geometry of survival, 3 species. 1 wound of a world. By midday, the ashlight fades to a tarnished amber. Shadows crawl uphill instead of down. The perimeter rises like a spell built from discipline and distrust. Dogmen string wire between oaks. Werewolves hammer silver stakes, and the Lycans pace the edges, each step tattooing authority into mud. Every loop of barbed filament hums with latent memory. When the wind touches it, you can hear a residual howl, faint as static. The hybrid's voice caught in metal. Containment isn't safety. It's an invitation for what remembers the inside. 2. Rules of engagement by agreement or exhaustion. They draft a code. No one hunts alone, no fire beyond the ridge. If the earth whispers your name, you answer no before. If the moon reappears, you don't look directly at it. The Dogman captain carves the rules into a slab of birch sapwood. The Lycan lieutenant laughs. Words rot faster than meat. The captain doesn't argue. He presses a silver nail through each clause. Then let's see which lasts longer. The werewolf elder tests the soil. Beneath a thin crust, warmth pulses, a heartbeat echoing from deep below the crater. He looks up, eyes tired but bright. It's tunneling, not rising, learning. First distortion, Night slips back faster than it should. The fog, once obedient, crawls against the breeze. Within it, trees lean slightly toward the clearing as if listening for instruction. The kid, the half-turned Dogman, flinches. His left ear twitches to a rhythm no one else hears. "Perimeter breach?" the captain asks. "Not breach," the kid whispers. "Echo." The ground hums, repeating footsteps from hours ago, exact, looped. The forest is replaying them like an experiment. Roots shift in sync with phantom patrols. A silver stake rattles loose and bursts into powder. The Lycan bares teeth. Your metal forgets itself. The elder growls. "Then remember this." He plants his claws in the dirt and begins to chant in the old tongue, syllables of command older than alphabets. The chant burns blue for a breath, then sputters as the ground beneath him liquefies into mirror mud. Inside that reflection, a shape forming, familiar and wrong. The hybrid's outline, only skeletal. No flesh, crawling up through its own memory. The return in pieces, it doesn't reform as a body. It manifests as terrain. Rocks rearrange into vertebrae, branches twist into ribs, sap bleeding silver. The forest becomes a topographical ghost of the hybrid's corpse. Each gust of wind moves its lungs. The Dogman fire, short, controlled bursts. Bullets vanish mid-flight, sucked into bark that instantly heals. The hybrid isn't attacking. It's editing. The map itself starts to change. Trails bending, compass needles spinning. Within minutes, every direction points toward the crater. The Lycan lieutenant snarls, "It wants us centered." The captain shoulders his weapon. "Then we don't oblige." He orders fall back to the ridge. The elder refuses. "If we leave, it defines the circle alone. Conflict, inevitable as gravity, snaps." The Dogmen drag their logic north. The werewolves stand firm. The Lycans vanish into fog, the sound of their breath alternating with thunder. Alliance is an hourglass. Fill it with fear, and time runs faster. The forests vote midnight again, though clocks insist only minutes past. Rain begins, thick, metallic. The taste of nickels on the tongue. Each drop hisses where it lands, carving micro runes into leaves. The perimeter wire glows red, alive with current it didn't have. The kid stares upward. The shards of moon still hung in the sky realign themselves, slowly orbiting one point. The crater's heart. They pulse with heartbeat rhythm. He feels words not spoken but remembered, 4 lines. One night. No masters. Choose. He steps forward, crossing the line of stakes before anyone can stop him. The moment his boot hits the crater rim, the rain reverses direction, falling up. Gravity follows him. He rises weightless into the center, light wrapping around his silhouette. The hybrid's partial body in the earth reacts. Roots snapping free, branches unfolding, rebuilding. The kid is being used as template, as correction. The captain screams his name, too late. The hybrid opens its new eyes through him. The hunt begins. Again, every creature still breathing feels it simultaneously. The pull of hierarchy, ancient and undeniable. Alpha instincts ignite like coals. Werewolves drop to all fours. Dogmen bare teeth, Lycans crouch ready. But this time the command doesn't come from above. It radiates outward. The hybrid's consciousness has merged with geography. The forest itself has become pack-mind. Branches twist into spears. Fog densifies into walls. Rivers reroute to isolate prey. There is no escape. Only roots of relevance the forest once tested. The captain reloads. No more circles. We hunt back. He gestures the sign of 3 slashes and a 4th beneath. The sigil, now their shared insignia. If it writes terrain, we write tactics. The elder nods. Hunt it not to kill, but to teach restraint. The Lycan lieutenant reappears, blood-spattered grin, or to see who survives the lesson. They charge together, the new trinity, into the mutating woods. Coda, breath of the new world, a hybrid watches through 1,000 eyes of bark and puddle. It sees cooperation as curiosity, violence as vocabulary. It doesn't rage, it records. Somewhere beneath the roots, that ancient double heartbeat keeps time. One slow, one accelerating. Dominion was never territory. It was the courage to look at the night and call it kin. As they vanish into the dark, the forest closes behind them. sealing each footprint with luminous moss. For every track erased, another appears deeper in, leading nowhere anyone has mapped. The red-white moon fragments brighten once more, signaling a phase unlisted in astronomy. The hunter's afterbirth fade to black. If you still hear the heartbeat, you're part of the hunt. Subscribe before it finds you first. 1. The last pulse. By the time the sun remembers its job, the forest has rewritten itself. Roots coil into new architecture. Rivers flow in spirals instead of lines. And every breeze carries the faint musk of wet fur and gunpowder, proof that law and hunger shook hands here. Nothing moves until the red-white haze burns off, revealing a landscape bruised rather than destroyed. It isn't peace, it's intermission. At the center of the crater, the sigil tree has grown taller overnight. 4 slashes across its trunk glow faintly under the newborn daylight, each one humming a separate tone: discipline, chaos, cunning, choice. Together they form a chord that doesn't resolve. It waits. The Dogman captain limps toward it, rifle strapped useless across his back. The Lycan lieutenant flanks him on one side, the grey-muzzled werewolf elder on the other. 3 shapes against a horizon that still bleeds. They stop within a breath of the trunked-on elder. It learned from us, Captain. Then it learned the worst parts. First, Lieutenant, that's all any child does. He places a claw on the bark. The pulse beneath it quickens, matching his heartbeat until he can't tell which belongs to whom. The mirror that doesn't stop. The kid, the half-turned template now fused to the hybrid, exists in fragments throughout the forest. His reflection peers from puddles, from dewdrops, from the polished curve of spent shells. Each copy blinks at a different rhythm. The werewolf elder squints at one of the reflections. Still him? The reflection mouths the answer. Sometimes. The Lycan growls softly. That's worse than a ghost. No, the captain says. That's memory pretending to be mercy. The new law, they draft a new creed on what's left of the Dogman's field tablet. Half ritual, half policy. Protect the perimeter until it learns. Manners too, no killing without witness, war. Every moonrise is a census. Count the living and the forgiven separately. When the 4th line glows, evacuate north. Always north, the elder signs with a claw mark. The Lycan burns his name in with friction-sparking talons. The captain stamps the screen with a bloody thumbprint. The device dies after saving the file. The forest hums approval. Every age thinks it closes the book on monsters. Every age forgets the ink is still wet. The wanderer's seen. 3 nights later, a drifter finds the clearing. He isn't soldier, wolf, or myth, just a man following static on an old shortwave radio. The signal led him here. The forest lets him in. He records a voice memo crackling through hiss. Found a circle of trees like they grew overnight. Everything smells burned and alive. Ground's warm. Feels like standing on a heartbeat. Going to set camp. Static cuts him off. A distant howl returns through the radio, but slowed, reversed, harmonized. He laughs nervously. Probably coyotes. Behind him, bark splits. 4 lines, 1 small. The camera, if this were a video, would pan slowly as something tall steps out of the shadow of its own echo. The screen would cut before he finishes turning around. The broadcast next morning, his transmission bleeds into open frequencies. Pilots hear it over empty states. Miners pick it up through drill intercoms. A child with a toy scanner hears whispers forming words she shouldn't understand. No masters. Choose. Within a week, hunters, poachers, and curiosity addicts start vanishing inside forests where the moon looks slightly wrong. Within a month, those forests start answering back. If you're hearing this, the forest hasn't decided what you are yet. We told you a story about beasts and dominion, but stories, like curses, evolve the moment you believe them. Somewhere, a moon is learning its next color. Somewhere, the first heartbeat still counts us in. And somewhere closer than comfort, a 4th line just opened its eyes. Audio drop. A low, resonant heartbeat, layered breathing, faint metallic scraping like claws on stone. At Whispering Narratives, we don't just tell stories, we map them. If you're still here after this one, subscribe before the next red moon, share it, so the forest knows you were warned. The whisper repeats backward for 2 seconds. Subliminal. Warned were you? Comment the word risen if you heard the heartbeat. The pack is always listening.